day, would be gone. What he tried to do for them in death always felt like an empty triumph, but at least he would try to do it. "Tell me everything," he said to her in his mind. "Tell me the truth, and I'll let it be known." Chapter 1. Thursday, May 19th. Glynis Peterson's house was full of clocks. There were silver mantel clocks with lunar white faces, wall clocks made from antique car parts, clocks created from the refuse of old metal advertisements, a couple of small digital clocks, one grandfather clock in the front hall that no longer worked, and beside the bed in the basement apartment an LED motion clock that displayed a message in midair between two prongs. This one Glynis had programmed to read, "Rise and shine," which message it displayed no matter one's state of wakefulness. For Detective Inspector Hazel Micallef, once a Mrs. Peterson herself, it only served as a reminder of whom exactly Glynis Peterson was rising and shining with. To have to take charity from a hated person was bad enough, but to do it out of necessity entailed a diminishment of one's sense of self that Hazel found hard to accept. She knew loss of pride was an occupational hazard for those who were proud, but did it have to mean being vanquished as well? Sometimes it seemed to Hazel that the situation she found herself in was one concocted for her by the Greek gods. To punish what? She couldn't be sure, but she had a feeling she was going to find out. She was now a tenant in her ex-husband's house. The roots of this strange situation were in an evening she'd spent the previous fall with him at the Laughing Crow. It was there, over drinks, that she'd hinted she might need some extramarital nursing if her damaged back finally gave in. She'd asked him to imagine her 87-year-old mother carrying her to the bathroom. He'd fairly blanched at what she was asking him, and Glynis, hearing of it, laughed at it as if it were a harebrained scam cooked up by one of her drug-addled clients. But then December had happened. A serial killer had drifted through their town like a deadly gas. A murder under her own roof. And a night in the bone-chilling cold and dark that left her back shattered and her mother nearly dead. Remembering the events lined up in her mind with a kind of dreadful inevitability, but that didn't make them any more believable. She'd had emergency surgery, but by the end of March it became clear that, in the words of her specialist, her back had failed. "Your first surgery is your best chance. Your second is your last," was something Dr. Pass had been fond of saying, but he'd stopped saying it in March. By that point, last chances were all Hazel had. She and her mother had lived together, not unpleasantly, in the house in Pember Lake for over 3 years since her divorce from Andrew. But the pain was keeping her from work, and more than once after the new year her mother had supported her on frail shoulders and taken Hazel to the bathroom. The hyperbolic scenario she'd described to Andrew boiled down to something real. Emily had finally gone to Andrew and Glynis and laid it out. She'd characterized the discussion as brief. "I used legal language so they'd understand it," she explained to Hazel. "I said the statute of limitations on marital duties was 5 years and that it covered all pre-existing conditions." How did Glynis like that? "She was smiling so tightly I thought her lipstick would squirt off her little lips." Emily smiled herself, that wicked smile that said she'd been in charge her whole life. "That woman has a mouth like a cat's anus," she said. Andrew understood, though. "And?" "They're giving their tenants a month's notice. Family, they said." "Well, that's nice," said Hazel. "At least we're still family." She lay in bed, staring at the small high window in the wall opposite. The suggestion of late May sunlight was faint, but her mother had assured her it was there. She popped the lid of the little orange vial she was gripping in her fist and put the edge of it against her bottom lip. The thick white pill tumbled onto her tongue. Sometimes she chewed it, this salty, bitter capsule. It worked faster this way, and the truth was, it had a little kick on it if it went down pulverized. It was now 10 days after her second operation. She was taken